the feeling of having a good race weekend and driving away in my little van back to Newcastle after, you know, say like winning a race or whatever, if you could bottle up that feeling and sell it, you'd be the richest man in the world, because it is just the best feeling ever. So my main inspiration to get into racing to start with came from my dad. So from the age of 7, I had a motorbike for Christmas and started riding and racing. And from then it's been very much a family thing, going to the racetracks on weekends. And it's funny because I'm not actually from a racing family. I think my dad would have loved to have had the chance to race when he was a kid, but had a few bikes on the road, that type of thing. But yeah, when we started racing, everything was a new experience, and a lot of the other dads from the paddock used to race themselves, or the grandparents used to race, and so it was so exciting the first few years of racing, going to all new locations, new tracks, learning everything for the first time. I remember people showing us how to put tyre warmers on and stuff when we first started, and you know, those days of just turning up, not really knowing too much, but just having a go and making progress all the time. The first time I raced on a proper track, I was nearly last. I was like, there was like 44 on the grid, and I think I qualified about 40th. And that year we just got higher and higher, and yeah, it's such an amazing sport to be involved with, and the experiences that we've had as a family have been, yeah, priceless. So Chasing the Racing started as purely just a podcast, an audio podcast, and it's then developed into more of it's like a TV show that you can watch on YouTube, but basically it's kind of like a bike racing chat. We'll get people of interest from all sorts of areas of motorbike racing, from riders to team bosses to sponsors to basically everyone that's involved. And we'll just hear the stories behind the names and the faces from the sport, and for people to basically educate themselves and sort of entertain people in whether you're walking the dog, driving, doing whatever you're doing, really. So do it with a lad called Dominic Herbertson, who's a road racer, does the IOMTT, and I compete in short circuit racing, so we'll kind of cover both sides of the sport. And yeah, it's good. It's a real good laugh, and it's been great to meet so many amazing people for over the 2 years that we've been doing it so far. Yes, as well as being a bike racer and doing the podcast, I also teach in a secondary school. So I'm a maths teacher, and I work Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday teaching the kids, and then pack my suit away and get my leathers out, and whether I'm either testing or racing, and then also doing the podcast. So yeah, keep myself busy. The first motorbike I ever rode was a little Malaguti Grizzly 50, and I got it for Christmas back when I was 7 years old. And for the first year or two, it was very much just kind of riding in wasteland and woodlands near my house. And from there, I then got into motocross, and I was racing motocross for a few years. And it was actually, my bike was stolen, which kind of forced us into, or sort of inspired us to start road racing, and the rest's been history. 2020 has obviously been a very odd year in some respects, but from a racing point of view, it's been probably one of my best years ever. It was a condensed calendar down to 6 rounds, and it had everything from the beginning of the season. In March, I was actually stuck up in a hospital after having quite a big surgery to my shoulder, and it looked like I was going to miss the first few rounds of the season. And then obviously with the season being postponed, that allowed us the chance to get fixed up. The team that I was set to race with had to pull out from the series due to the coronavirus situation. So last minute, I had to ring round and basically sort out to hire a bike and put my own little sort of team together. So it was very much a David and Goliath feeling to it, and I felt like I sort of had every obstacle in the way possible. But when it all came together and we got our first race win at the first round of the season and left the first round leading the championship, it was just amazing. And the feeling of having a good race weekend and driving away in my little van back to Newcastle after, say like winning a race or whatever, if you could bottle up that feeling and sell it, you'd be the richest man in the world, because it is just the best feeling ever. And obviously, as the championship went through, consistency was a huge thing this year. Finished every single race in the top 5. No DNFs, no crashes in practice, qualifying or anything, and just winning the races that I could win. And when we had problems, taking sort of seconds and thirds. And it was that consistency that was the key to success this year. And to finally win the championship, it was amazing. It sort of summarised the year lovely. And it'll be a huge honour to ride the Kawasaki with the #1 plate. And obviously the goal is to try and retain the National Superstock 1000 Championship. From being a young age, I've always loved watching motorbike racing on the TV. And when I was really young, British Superbikes used to be on BBC, so getting to watch it every Sunday was amazing. I've always been massively interested in MotoGP, and Valentino Rossi's been I feel blessed to live in an era where I've been able to watch Valentino Rossi come through and some of his best races. And from history, I would say Barry Sheene stands out as a massive inspiration, not only just for the racing side of things, but the way he sort of transcended the sport, and he was such an iconic figure. And it was really cool when I came down here to Colchester Kawasaki to see Barry's first ever bike in the showroom.
You're going to attack the Superstock 1000 Championship again. What are you looking forward to?
I'm really excited to just get out on a bike to start with, because the winter just feels like it goes on forever. And hopefully we'll get out testing sometime soon. I'm really excited for the new challenge. It's a new bike for me, a new team, and it's the championship's looking to be extremely competitive. There's a lot of top riders stepping down from Superbikes and coming across from Supersport. So it's going to be, the Superstock Championship's always competitive, but I think it's going to be probably the strongest year for a long time next year. And just really excited to get out, do our thing, and work on the performances and the skills that I developed last year to win the championship. I'm looking forward to putting into practice. And like I said, with the new bike, working on some new ideas in terms of aero and various things. And it would be great to bring back the #1. Obviously, you always have your sights set on particular things in the future, but I very much like to focus 1 year at a time. And like you said, obviously, next 2021 is all about trying to retain the Superstock Championship. I would like to see that as a progression into Superbikes. And over the next few years, I would like to be working towards winning the British Superbike Championship. So in the paddock, I've got lots of people who I would call friends, and get on great with pretty much everyone that I race against. But there's a real funny sort of dynamic, because at the end of the day, you're all there for the same thing. You're all chasing the same goals. And there's that thing in the back of everyone's mind that you're friends, but you're also enemies on track. And I find it quite easy to separate the two, and you have your persona in the paddock and as a normal human being, and then I feel when you put your helmet on and you get your leathers on and whatever, it's almost like playing a game, and you've kind of got to separate the two. I've had really close friendships with people, but when it comes to racing, there's no friends on track. So it's a really difficult one, but you just get used to it with experience.
Has there ever been a situation where that fight on track has come back into the paddock and it's been like a really awkward situation?
Yeah, I've had a few of those. I'm quite a quite an aggressive rider, and I like to get stuck in on track. Obviously, we're there to do a job, but there's been a couple of occasions where it's really difficult to when two people are so close in terms of lap times to get past them. Sometimes you've got to kind of like touch body work or whatever, and there's been a couple of occasions where it's then led to sort of stern conversations afterwards. There was one in particular that when I was I think it was my first year in Superstock, or maybe my second year, and one time I came back, and as I was walking down from the podium, my dad was being sort of escorted away, and another rider had sort of squared up to my dad and threatened to beat him up, type of thing. But luckily, I've never been filled in for anything that's happened on track. So, and hopefully it'll stay that way. I've got quite a specific routine before race, and I think it's really important to have like rituals and routines. And I've got a little box trailer that's kind of my little zone for race weekends. And about an hour before I'm on session, like out on track, I go up to the trailer, I put some nice depending what mood I'm in. Sometimes it's relaxing music, sometimes it's MC. No, I'm just joking. And yeah, just whatever mood I'm in, listen to some music, do some stretching. Stretching is really important because the positions you get into, obviously getting tucked in and with your knees like stretched right out, doing all your groins and everything. And do my stretching, and just gradually put my leathers on, my boots, gloves, all that type of stuff. Do quite a lot of visualization. So before I go out on track, I'll have done at least 3 or 4 laps in my head, and it almost feels like extra practice, really, because you go through all the process. You hit every bump that you know you're going to hit, and sometimes when you go out on track, it sort of feels a bit like deja vu because you've just been doing it in your head, and I find that really useful. And then just go out, and the goal for me is to be as relaxed as possible. So it is obviously difficult, especially in a championship position where there's a lot on the line. So there's the danger element, and there's also the points and the sort of pressure element. But for me, it's really important just to be like super relaxed. And over years of practice, a lot of it's sort of trial and error, and I feel like I've got a good little routine that works for me. And I think it's up to everyone to get their own little routine sorted, but it is important to have some sort of rituals before you go on track. There's no feeling like winning a race. The euphoria, obviously, like the pressure of the event itself and the risks that you're taking, you really feel like you're putting yourself right out on you're putting your body on the line. So when it pays off, there's that natural buzz of adrenaline is just incredible. And driving away from a race weekend when you've had a good meeting and you're happy with your performance, especially if you've won, there's it doesn't matter what else is going on in your life, and it doesn't matter how much traffic you get stuck in, or what if there's rubbish songs on the radio. Everything just seems so irrelevant. That's the sort of bug of racing, and that's why you see so many people remortgaging the houses and spending every penny that they've got to go racing, because that feeling when it goes right is just so addictive. It's funny, actually, earlier this year I seen a pair of slippers, and they were way, in terms of money that I would be happy to spend on slippers, I seen them and they were amazing, but they were very overpriced for what I thought they were. But I said to myself, as soon as I win a race, I'm going to buy them slippers. And the first round of the season at Donington, got my first race win, and went to work the next day, finished work at like 4 p.m, jumped in my van, drove straight through to the Metro Centre and bought these, they were like UGG slippers. And like I said, I would never usually spend, I think they were like 80 quid. I would never usually spend 80 quid on a pair of slippers, but they're my pride and joy, and I wear them every single day.
Who are you most frightened of?
not frightened of anyone. But there's strong riders. I think it's looking like Taylor Mackenzie's going to be back in the championship. Keith Farmer, Richard Cooper, if his leg is fixed, Richard Cooper will be back, and he's bound to be very strong. Alex Olsen's looking like he's back from Superbikes, again recovering from an injury, but he's a fabulous rider when he's fit. And that's on top of all the riders that were in the championship last year. Tom Neve was the standout competitor last year, and he's staying with the same team on the Honda. He'll be very strong. His brother Tim on the Suzuki, and like every year there's always a surprise package. There's somebody that you don't really consider a big threat who's up there. So you just got to be on your mettle from round one.
And no one frightens you.
And nobody frightens us, no. I came down here to Colchester Kawasaki to see Barry's first ever race bike, and a Bultran